So here we're going to look at a basic example of how to do some Python code generated from natural human language. So I am not a coder by trade. I do a little bit of Python in my job. But if you are somebody who is a web designer, coder, you can basically use this as an assistant. It's not always 100% correct, but from what I've seen coders talking about on Twitter and stuff like that, I follow a lot of people. I have friends that are coders, but I do know that there's a significant increase by leveraging ChatGPT as a coder, and it pretty much, a lot of people are just having it on a second monitor at this point and pushing it that way and just always having it there. So it's extremely useful, and there are some resources at the end of this course that I've attached for coders that hopefully can help some of you guys out. And even if you're not, and you're like me, you use a little bit of scripting, maybe you have a Shopify website where you need a little bit of web coding, stuff like that, this is going to be awesome for this. So this is an example. I said, write a Python 3 script to rename all the files in the directory, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., that could run in a Mac terminal. So I'm on Mac right now, so I need this Python code to work on Mac. And I personally, I would not know how to code this from scratch right now. I could probably Google it and try to figure it out and maybe spend an hour trying to mess around with it to get it working. My Python skills are pretty basic, but with this, I can basically create this. So write a Python 3 script, and it did it. So it creates all of these things. And what I wanted to do was, oftentimes I'm dealing with images because I do a lot of media stuff. So if you're a photographer and stuff like that, maybe you have a bunch of stuff here related to a bunch of files. Maybe you have 100 pictures, but they're all these weird names here. And what we want to do is rename them, but keep the file extension. Let's say they're JPEG or whatever, and you want to keep them the same. We can do that with ChatGPT. So if you don't know how to run this code, you're like, okay, I have an idea for a script, but I don't know how to run it. You can ask ChatGPT, how do I run Python 3 script on a Mac? How can I run this through a terminal? And it's going to give you the answer. So I've done this. I know how to do it. So I can copy the directory. I can kind of paste it in here. Change the directory to where the script is saved. And I can run this Python script. So I can say Python rename files.py. And it's going to run this Python script. And if I go back to the other folder, you'll notice we have some consecutive file naming here. And you notice they started at 3, 4, 5, 6. I actually ran the script 2 times. It gave me a slightly different result. So again, this code might be slightly off, or the counter's not starting at the right number. So as a coder, you might want to double check the code and look at those things, but it's still doing what we need, and we have the file extension. So it is very, very useful. It can give you snippets of code. It's not going to write entire programs as far as I've seen out there, but it'll give you portions of code. And I have some other examples later that really, really are useful, especially for web design and stuff like that. So this is what it can do now. And there are many examples that I'm not even thinking of, and much more complex examples if you're at a higher end level, if you're doing kind of back end coding, stuff like that. So keep it in mind if you're not a coder. And it can do software specific stuff as well. So I use a software called Nuke a lot, and it actually has read the specific API of Nuke. It has read the programming library of Nuke. So people who aren't out there that don't know what an API is, most softwares have an API that's publicly available if you want to program specifically for those softwares. So not only can it do things outside in a terminal like this, it can actually do things for the specific softwares you might be using as well. So those are things to explore and look into.